All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of Is It Prophecy here on Israel National Radio, Root Sheva, and the show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Louis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. You can email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. Feel free also to check me out on JApp. That's a Jewish application that has shiurim for big rabbis as well as episodes of this program. You can download JApp from iTunes or Google Play Stores or from the website www.j-app.me. And, of course, if you'd like to make a financial contribution to the program, you can do so through my PayPal account, IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. It's a pleasure to have on this afternoon's program a weekly guest, Rabbi David Katz from SoulMazal.com. Rabbi, how you doing out there?
Hi, Ari. Thanks for having me back, and Shavua Tov to all our listeners.
Absolutely. Now, one of the topics that has been brought to my attention from one of the listeners is the concept of Mashiach ben Yosef versus Mashiach ben David. So we're going to talk about that point in this episode. Let's talk about first, are we missing the point by not focusing on Mashiach ben Yosef?
We want Mashiach now.
Right.
I felt so Lubavitch saying that. That's actually the point I want to bring up this week, is that anyone that knows Chabad, been around Chabad, they've all the great they do, all the mitzvahs that they promote, and they do great stuff. And along with their mitzvahs that they promote, we all know that Mashiach is part of their engine, right? The coming of the Messiah. And if you get around Chabad, just any kind of event or whatever they're promoting, Mashiach, the Rebbe, all these things, whatever way you take that, and this doesn't need to go political. The point is that when someone like Chabad is putting out any kind of propaganda, in a good way, it's not a bad word, just anything with Mashiach, it really doesn't have a definition of Ben David or Ben Yosef. And please don't take the words I'm using to be negative. I don't mean them negative. With flags and banners, technically I think that is propaganda, is it not? Right?
I think it is. You could say that.
Right. So this is not a negative thing. It's a fact that they are into Mashiach, and I think it's a good thing on a simple level. But me or you, anybody, the onlooker, we don't know even that there is a potential question of which Mashiach, right? Especially when you're going to go anti-Christian, and the things that come out of the Christian camp, what was the nature of Jesus and all these things. The Jewish response has been to shy away from distinctions of Mashiach and just say Mashiach, right? And not get into avenues what we're going to eventually call Ben Yosef. Is that kosher Ben Yosef? Do we believe in Ben Yosef? Should I even be thinking this? And so again, when I look at Chabad, I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to think Mashiach, and there's no further question.
Okay, so that makes sense there. Now, let's talk about, do we want Mashiach ben David now? Because you were just talking about Mashiach now, but is that something we really want?
Right, so that's it. So you're going to get me to say, we want Mashiach now. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I want Mashiach now. Right? They're going to say, that sounds like a pretty dodgy question.
Yeah, that sounds weird.
Right? So that's the thing, is once you get into we call them the Shitas, right? It's like the rabbinic opinions, right? So no longer is it, my kid likes to play in a Chabad kindergarten, right? But, when you look into a little deeper, again, for the Baal Tshuva that steps in on a Friday night and he goes to a synagogue and he has a Friday night meal, that's great. But at some point in time, it has to stop being a synagogue, and it's a Chabad house, right?
Right.
Just like I remember when I was becoming religious, I thought, what's the difference if it's Hasidic or what I call an Orthodox, which back then, looking back now, it's Litvish, right? There's a big difference, right? The world sees black and white, and they just say, Orthodox Jews, it's all good. There's no such thing as just an Orthodox Jew once you're on the inside scoop. Is it Lubavitch? Is it Litvish? Is it Bells? Is it Ger Hasidim? Right? There's all these questions. What kind of hat you have? Is it bent? Is it round? Are socks inside your pants? Or your pants outside your socks? Do you wear boots? What do you wear boots on Shabbos? Do you wear shoes on Shabbos? Right? Do you wear a gartel? Is your coat long? Is your coat short? And these are all distinctions of the myriad of Orthodox groups that each have a specific name. Now, Chabad is more visual, I think, than, at least in America, than most other groups. They're out there doing the mitzvahs, as we said, and getting people involved, doing tremendous outreach. So chances are, if you're unaffiliated and you want to become affiliated, you're going to meet Chabad on your journey. And along that journey, they're going to tell you that you should want Mashiach now. And that sounds like a great thing. Okay, Mashiach now. But once you're on the inside for X amount of time, you're going to realize what they're saying is Mashiach. Right? Let me just back up. It's kind of a dodgy thing to say, but I'm going to do it anyways. Because you say you want the truth, Ari, right?
Right. Yeah, it's like Jack Nicholson.
So here's the truth. I mean, this is pretty rough what I'm about to say, but I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and being a returnee to Judaism and becoming an eventual rabbi, my childhood is way different now than I thought it was then. When I used to wrestle, and a lot of the wrestlers I would wrestle with, they'd say like, "Well, man, I won this match because God helped me." And I'm like, "Hey, good, I believe in God too. We're brothers, right?" Then, at like 30-some years old, you look back and you say, the God that he was thanking, that wasn't exactly Hashem, right? He was thanking Jesus. And I didn't know that, right? Because me, some, kid in Centerville, Ohio, I'm saying God is just God. What else could it be? So I didn't know. That was a loaded question, right? So again, don't make the negative comparisons. I'm just speaking for analogous, right? But when I hear Mashiach from Chabad, I'm saying, hey, it's all good. But when you get on the inside, you find out what's going on. All right, and in the most parv sense, they're talking about Mashiach ben David, right? They're talking about Mashiach ben David, and that is to the exclusion of Mashiach ben Yosef. And in certain sects of Chabad, that is talking about the Rebbe himself, right? So when it's easy to say, go Chabad, go Rebbe, and we want Mashiach now. But again, what does that mean? Because if I'm going to take that on in my personal avodas Hashem, serving God, right? Do I want Mashiach ben David to come now? I don't know. Do I want the Rebbe to be Mashiach? I don't know. Was he involved? I don't know. So these are questions that it might be cute and fun to say we want Mashiach on the surface, with our little kids in kindergarten with flags, yay, go Mashiach. But as a mature adult, I'm not convinced or sure or even decided, right? Not from a rabbinic point of view. I'm saying from the person coming inside, I don't know if that's what I want to do, and I think it needs explained.
Again, this is a Prophecy on Israel National Radio, Root Sheva. The show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Louis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. Again, speaking with Rabbi David Katz of Somazal.com. Rabbi Katz, let's talk about the Gra and what his thoughts are on this matter.
The Gra is the initial letters of Gon Rebbe Eliyahu, the genius Rabbi Elijah. He's the famous Vilna Gaon of Lithuania, Torah Judaism from around the 18th century, basically. And he's going to be famous for his opposition against Chabad, the famous argument of the Misnagdim and the Hasidim, right? The Hasidic movement and those that oppose it. The Vilna Gaon comes out with, he's running parallel with the Hasidim. Right? That's really, again, not where I want to focus this on. What we want to focus on is the Vilna Gaon in that time period came out with a sefer, a book called Kol HaTor, the voice of the turtle dove. And to put it in terms of what the Vilna Gaon identifies the book as its function, a Shulchan Aruch of the Gula, a law, well, not technically a law, but the law book of the redemption, i.e. the final word of redemption. And the premise of the book is that we have to go with Mashiach ben Yosef, right, the Messiah, son of Joseph, as the forerunner to Messiah, son of David, and as a necessary and integral part of redemption, and to the point where you have to say there's no redemption without Mashiach ben Yosef coming first and leading the way. So here you have, I wouldn't call it an argument of the two schools, not like the Hasidim and the Misnagdim. I would call this an outcome of both of their schools, Chabad's outcome is going to end up with, we want Mashiach now, right? Meaning just, they feel like they have the inside track, Mashiach ben David, whether the Rebbe is or not, they're not saying the Rebbe is Mashiach ben Yosef, let's put it that way. Okay. And the Vilna Gaon side would say, we're going to focus on Mashiach ben Yosef, that's going to lead to a Mashiach ben David. And therefore, you have totally opposing views, whereas one says, we don't really need to look, it doesn't matter, we just want Mashiach now. The other one is saying, let's particularly look, I care about looking, and the more I look, I see Mashiach ben Yosef. That's really the synopsis of those two schools of thought.
All right, now let's talk about apparently there's a dispute of what the Vilna Gaon says about Mashiach, and then opposing what he says. So tell us a bit about that.
So the Vilna Gaon is going to go with the Mashiach ben Yosef concept because in the works of Kabbalah, Mashiach ben Yosef, also by the term Mashiach ben Ephraim, which is a term, Ephraim, one of the sons of Joseph, right? He had two sons, Ephraim and Menashe. So there's Mashiach ben Ephraim, Mashiach ben Yosef. The Talmud speaks about Mashiach ben Yosef one place only, and that is in the Tractate of Sukkah 52b. But more Kabbalistic works like the Zohar will use the term Mashiach ben Ephraim alongside Mashiach ben Yosef. The Midrash Rabbah will bring Mashiach ben Ephraim alongside Mashiach ben Menashe, one that most people are not familiar with. So there's a lot of terms for redemption in Mashiach. The Midrash Rabbah that I speak of, it speaks about four craftsmen, which is also the subject of Sukkah 52b. Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, Elijah, and Cohen Tzedek, the righteous priest. So the redemption is a proper school of thought. It's a proper learning. It's a proper eschatology that we have. Whereas in the Chabad kind of Mashiach now, and I'm not picking on Chabad. I think most of Judaism is just saying Mashiach now. I just use Chabad because they're leading the parade when it comes to this. But the fact is, most Jews are just wanting Mashiach now, whereas I think the Vilna Gaon school says, let's look at this a little deeper. Let's look at it as a proper Talmudic concept. And it turns out that when you get into it, there really is a world of Mashiach. All through the Midrash and Kabbalah and rabbinic literature for 2,000 years, you can string together a proper messianic view that is not boiled down to just we want Mashiach now.
All right. Now, one of the things that this concept about the Vilna Gaon, about redemption, was that something he invented?
The Vilna Gaon, he was the one to crystallize the view and to make it kind of cemented in history that it can't go away. Because until then, the year 1740-ish, right? Again, most of the 18th century, turning the corner into the present time. Nowadays, it's getting a revival in terms of the adherence to the Vilna Gaon, and the Zohar's making a strong push from its translation into Hebrew in the 20th century by Rav Ashlag, and the Rav Ashlag school was promoted by, unfortunately, the whole Kabbalah thing with Madonna and all this, but it brought it to the forefront, and the students that were associated with Ashlag. So nowadays there's a Kabbalistic kind of fervor. If you didn't pay attention or notice, we're back in the land of Israel as of 1948. So you have, Rav Kook was a friend of Rav Ashlag. So you're having, a whole revival. I mean, the land of Israel is a Kulator model. Because Rav Kook, when he instituted Judaism in the land, he was doing a lot of Kulator things, i.e. that the Vilna Gaon in Kulator, that was really the beginning of Zionism. It's called Zionit Greit, Zionism of the Vilna Gaon. And Kulator was really the flagship of another series of books that came out alongside Kol HaTorah, which ended up being the basis of Zionism. And Zionism, in a particular lens, really is Mashiach ben Yosef-esque in terms of building the land, planting the land, defending the land. A lot of Zionist things that are kosher, and always were kosher, and were maybe even hijacked by the other side, were these Mashiach ben Yosef qualities which date back to the Vilna Gaon, which were brought through 2,000 years of rabbinic literature. That again, the Vilna Gaon basically cemented them, pushed them through. Rav Kook brought them out in the open. In the land of Israel, we get to live these things today, and that's really the insight and highlight of what's going on with Mashiach ben Yosef, is that it's alive and well today in real time and in real character.
Again, this is a prophecy on Israel National Radio, Root Sheva, and the show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Louis and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. Let's talk about if Mashiach ben Yosef is synonymous with Kabbalah and its different views. So talk about that, please, Rabbi.
So, yeah, this is some stuff I got into today. I really like this. I went to the used bookstore in Sfat a month or two ago, and I found a really random book on the bookshelf. It's about the Vilna Gaon and his base medrash, his study hall. And I've been trying to crack into this for a while, and today I finally really got into it. And it's interesting as you look at the Vilna Gaon from a yeshivish perspective, and you can also lump the Zohar in here. It's like, yeah, okay, of course we learn the Vilna Gaon. Of course the Zohar is part of our doctrine and our curriculum of Torah. But for someone on the outside, let's call it a scholar or an academic, right, that's not an obvious conclusion. If I'm looking at Islam, are the Hadith, are they part of the Quran? So, as an outside viewer, I might say for sure not. But if I was a Muslim, they see it as one. I think that's part of the problem, by the way. But anyways, the point here is that they want to know, what is the nature of Kabbalah and the Messianism and the Vilna Gaon working together. And the book just made me think of things in a different way. And so I realized today that Kabbalistic clarity is really what defines the quality of Mashiach. I guess I'm just realizing this now. What's the biggest reason why you can discount Jesus as the Messiah from this thinking? Because the Kabbalistic clarity there was garbage. A son of God, that does it. You're done already, right? Once you say a man is God, you got a big 0, an F on your Kabbalah test. Which is interesting because, let's just say one step further, Rav Ginsburg brings this in his Kabbalah. There's a concept in Kabbalah called Zeranpin, which is like the masculine component. And he always uses the word son of God to explain that. Right? There's something called the mother, the father, the son, and the daughter, and the grandfather, which is essentially the Lurianic Kabbalah tree of life. A really generic sense. And Rav Ginsburg explains that, Ava, Ima, father, mother, that's the higher aspect. And then their children, so to speak, the male and the female, Zeranpin and Nukva. And Zeranpin, he translates it as son of God. I personally don't agree with that. I think I think he knows what that language is doing, and I don't like that. But it can technically be translated that way. Again, that's not bringing Kabbalistic clarity. So again, that's kind of like just, Mashiach now. And he's a Mashiachist. So, he believes, that's what I heard. Again, it was reported to me that he endorses the Rebbe as the Messiah. What I'm saying is, if the Rebbe is or isn't, it still needs to be brought into Kabbalistic clarity. Right? It's not going to come just by saying Mashiach now. Eventually, the job has to get done, which, this is what Chabad Hasidus was a part of this development. Don't think they weren't. Once you go back to the original concepts of the Arizal and Sfat, pre-1600, around 1600, going into Europe with the Vilna Gaon in the 18th century, and Chabad was right there. And remember, the Vilna Gaon students and the Chabadniks, they were in Sfat together in the 19th century. So you can say they argued all you want, but in the land of Israel, they got along pretty well. So the Kabbalistic nurturing was mutual on both sides. I would say that when the Lubavitcher Rebbe was alive, it was at its apex, and obviously when he died, some people continued the mission, and some people regressed, and I think it's very obvious to tell which is which. I know some Lubavitchers that are still carrying on, and they're looking for Mashiach, just like everybody else. So also the Vilna Gaon, once he died, some carried on the Kabbalistic message, some didn't. And that's everyone's prerogative. You don't have to carry on the Kabbalistic aspect. That's, but you should know in an objective universe, the Kabbalistic message does go on. And as we're going to realize, the ultimate Kabbalah is clarity of Hashem and His name are one. That would be the Torah of the Messiah. And thus the Messiah, the truth of Messiah, would be a reflection of Kabbalistic clarity.
A reminder that this show is syndicated as the Messiah Hour on YouTube. You can go to YouTube and type in Messiah Hour with Ari Louis, and you can, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. Also, you can find me on JApp. That's a Jewish application that has sharing for big rabbis as well as episodes of this program. So to check that out, you can download JApp from iTunes or Google Play stores or from the website www.j-app.me. And if you'd like to make a financial contribution to the show, you can do so through my PayPal account, which is israelsportsradio@yahoo.com. That's my PayPal account. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or different show topics you would like me to talk about in the future, email me messiahhour@gmail.com, and we'll try to make that happen for you. On the other side of this break is my conversation continuation with Rabbi David Katz of SoulMazal.com. This is It Prophecy on IsraelNationalRadio.com.